all the world. You got to be a fair judge. Why did you do that? Why are you doing this? Why did you do this? So what's Hashem's answers going to be? What are Hashem's answers going to be like? This is me. I'm going to answer the question in my way. It may not be the deepest, but for me it is. Hashem's going to look at me with His eyes and say, "Do you understand?" I said, "No, I just asked you a question. No, how come there was so much suffering?" So He's going to look at me again. He says, "Do you understand?" He's not going to say it in words. He's going to open me up, and I'm going to say, "Yeah, but what about that? And what about this? Why did that have to happen?" And He's going to open me up even more. And He's going to start to show me things that I wasn't aware of, and that He had a plan, and that everything fit into this plan. And this plan is so magnificent that even things that were painful were part of an incredible plan of a loving Creator. So what it goes to, and what changed me, was that at a certain point I really believe that He's going to give me the understanding that I need to make me able to look at my life and to look at all existence and say to Him, "You're amazing." So it blows my mind. How did you do it? You hid yourself, and yet you were there with us. You allowed things to happen that seemed to be so bad, and yet in the end it was all for the most awesome awakening, the most awesome love. And so I really believe that from that moment on, we'll be thankful to Hashem for every second that we live. We'll really know that He really is the one who's in charge. And again, it's hard for me to give this over, but I believe in that. I believe that moment will come, that He will be willing to answer us in a way to bring us so close to Him and to His understanding, which is infinite. We can only come so far, but He'll introduce us to that deeper and higher understanding in stages, until we'll get such a realization, such a series of realizations, that it'll change the whole way we understand things. Knowing that's going to happen, you can question whether that's going to happen. I don't question that anymore. Knowing that that's going to happen, I come back into my life now somewhat changed, with an ability to see things a little bit different than I did before I had that experience. That's the first thing I wanted to say about what it means to see my life from the perspective of eternity. The visual part, which is to look down on myself and all that, is really secondary, and I want to show you how he says it here, the rabbi that we're going to quote. But it's really secondary. Really, the main thing is the understanding that we live in eternity. Eternity is not just something in the future. It's the context within which our whole existence takes place. And then he brought us down into this little bubble called time. And the problems are manifold. And you cannot answer all the problems that come up within the framework of this world as we know it. You need a reference point that's a higher reference point in order to make sense of many things that happen here. And I believe that we have access to that reference point, and that if we go up, we can bring more of it down each time until that reference point becomes internalized, and I become what's called a ben olam haba, a child of the next world, even as I walk in this world. And I really believe that's what it means to be a Yisrael, a Jew, Yashar El, that nothing can stop me now from being connected to eternity. There's even a quote here in the book that I don't have on this pages. It's on page 31, the page right after the one you have, where I bring a quote from the Maharal. So please bear with me. Those of you who have the book in your hand, on page 31, the Maharal says a very special simple but beautiful and profound idea. He says, Ki be'emet ha'adam nikra etz hasadeh. In truth, man, each human being and all mankind can be likened to a tree. As it is written, Ki ha'adam etz hasadeh, for man is a tree of the field. The difference is that man is a right side up tree. The trees that you see outside, the tree that grew in Brooklyn, the trees we see outside are upside down. Their roots are in the ground, and their feet are in the air. Roots is meaning the brain stem is in the ground, and their feet are in the air. The Malbim says, also, he can't live after the Malbim, but he adds, we'll go back to Mara in a second, the Malbim says trees are like this, animals are like this, and man is like this. So you see, so this is the Maharal is saying, but the Malbim adds the thing about the animals. Man is a tree of the field. The difference is that man is the right side up tree. The roots of a physical tree are in the ground, whereas man's root is above. For the neshama, the soul, is man's shorish, his root. You get the word source in English from shorish, source. And it is in heaven, i.e. his head, which corresponds to the spiritual dimension. The source is up here, the root source for everything that happens in our body. His hands are thus like his main branches, and his feet are the smaller branches that branch off from these. His torso is the trunk of the tree. Why is this so important to understand? The root of a physical tree is below. It receives its sustenance from the ground below. Man's soul, on the other hand, draws its life force from heaven. So basically, it's a paradigm shift. We see ourselves as physical beings. And of course we are in the physical world. We live here. But there's something that happens. You can say also that we are not just a body with a soul, which is, I'm a body and I have a soul. Okay, but it's like he's a guest. My soul is my guest. No, I'm a soul and I'm in a body. I change positions. We actually have this progression in our davening. We start off in the morning with Modeh Ani. We say, thanks God for giving me back my soul. Who's the one who's thanking? We call it the Ani, the little me. Thanks for giving me back my soul. Thank you so much for connecting me. But by the time we make the first bow in the Amidah and the Shmon Esrei, and we come up, you can mamash literally look down at the little me and say, Mamash, I love you so much. I'm so glad that you're doing the best you can. I came down here to help you. Who's the I now? It's the higher soul. That's it's hidden in the prayers that happens, but it came to me very strong. So that paradigm shift is that I switch from being somebody who's rooted down below and has a little bit of a connection above to being rooted above and having a connection down below. Even there's an amazing midrash about Adam HaRishon that the Alshich describes and explains the midrash, that the midrash says that Adam HaRishon's garments before the sin were wide above and narrow below, and after the sin, wide below and narrow above. When before the sin, he was completely connected to Shemayim, and he had a very tenuous connection down here. He could go into anything he wanted, and to know any animal or any essence, the essence of anything. He could enter into something and come out. But once he did what he did, which is a whole year's course, the Chet of Adam HaRishon, he became, so to speak, trapped. And now it was wide below. Now he was connected here. But he had to barely connected above. And it was almost like seeing the light through a very, very small aperture. He still had a direct connection, but it was very small. And then there's two stages after that, is that now his connection became even less, because it was like light shining off of an object like the nails. You can only see the reflection. And the other one says it's like linen from Beit Shan, which is refraction as opposed to reflection, which is to see light refracted through a curtain. And that means each one has an advantage and